I'm Jeremy. Today's day 401 of reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Let's get started. Currently on page 296. Let's go, lock in. No, look! Hermione was pointing to the nearest window. Harry and Ron both looked over. A handsome screech owl was standing on the windowsill, gazing into the room at Ron. Isn't that Hermes? Said Hermione, sounding amazed. Blimey, it is, said Ron quietly, throwing down his quill and getting to his feet. What's Percy writing to me for? He crossed to the window and opened it. Hermes flew inside, landed upon Ron's essay, and held out a leg to which a letter was attached. Ron took it off, and the owl departed at once, leaving inky footprints across Ron's drawing of the moon Io. That's definitely Percy's handwriting, said Ron, sinking back into his chair and staring at the words on the outside of the scroll. To Ronald Weasley, Gryffindor House, Hogwarts. He looked up at the other two. What do you reckon? Open it, said Hermione eagerly. Harry nodded. Ron unrolled the scroll and began to read. The farther down the apartment his eyes traveled, the more pronounced became his scowl. When he had finished reading, he looked disgusted. He thrust the letter at Harry and Hermione, who leaned toward each other to read it together. Dear Ron, I have only just heard from no less a person than the Minister of Magic himself, who has it from your new teacher, Professor Umbridge, that you have become a Hogwarts prefect. I was most pleasantly surprised when I heard this news and must firstly offer my congratulations. I must admit that I have always been afraid you would take what we might call the Fred and George route, rather than following in my footsteps. So you can imagine my feelings on hearing you have stopped flouting authority and have decided to shoulder some responsibility. But I want to give you more than congratulations, Ron. I want to give you some advice, which is why I'm sending this at night rather than by the usual morning post. Hopefully you will be able to read this away from prying eyes and avoid awkward questions. From something the minister let slip while telling me you are now a prefect, I gather that you are still seeing a lot of Harry Potter. I must tell you, Ron, that nothing could put you in danger of losing your badge more than continued fraternization with that boy. Yes, I am sure you are surprised to hear this. No doubt you will say that Potter has always been Dumbledore's favorite, but I feel bound to tell you that Dumbledore may not be in charge at Hogwarts much longer, and the people who count have a very different and probably more accurate view of Potter's behavior. I shall say no more here, but if you look at the Daily Prophet tomorrow, you will get a good idea of the way the wind is blowing, and see if you can spot yours truly. Seriously, Ron, you do not want to be tarred with the same brush as Potter. It could be very damaging to your future prospects. I'm talking here about life after school too. As you must be aware, given that our father escorted him to court, Potter had a disciplinary hearing this summer in front of the whole Visingamot, and he did not come out of it looking too good. He got off on a mere technicality, if you ask me, and many people I've spoken to remain convinced of his guilt. It may be that you're afraid to sever ties with Potter. I know that he can be unbalanced, and for all I know, violent. But if you have any worries about this, or have spotted anything else in Potter's behavior that is troubling you, I urge you to speak to Dolores Umbridge, a really delightful woman who I know will be only too happy to advise you. This leads me to my other bit of advice. As I have hinted above, Dumbledore's regime at Hogwarts may soon be over. Your loyalty, Ron, should not be to him, but to the school and the ministry. I am very sorry to hear that so far Professor Umbridge is encountering very little cooperation from staff as she strives to make those necessary changes within Hogwarts that the ministry so ardently desires. Although she should find this easier from next week. Again, see the prophet tomorrow. I shall say only this. A student who shows himself willing to help Professor Umbridge now may be very well placed for head boyship in a couple of years. I am sorry that I was unable to see more of you over the summer. It pains me to criticize our parents, but I am afraid I can no longer live under their roof while they remain mixed up with the dangerous crown around Dumbledore. If you're writing to Mother at any point, you might tell her that a certain Sturgis Podmore, who is a great friend of Dumbledore's, has recently been sent to Azkaban for trespass at the Ministry. Perhaps that will open their eyes to the kind of petty criminals with whom they are currently rubbing shoulders. I count myself very lucky to have escaped the stigma of association with such people. The minister really could not be more gracious to me. And I do hope, Ron, that you will not allow family ties to blind you to the misguided nature of our parents' beliefs and actions either. I sincerely hope that, in time, they will realize how mistaken they were, and I shall, of course, be ready to accept a full apology when that day comes. Please think about what I have said most carefully, particularly the bit about Harry Potter, and congratulations again on becoming perfect. Your brother, Percy. Harry looked up at Ron. Well, he said, trying to sound as though he found the whole thing a joke, if you want to, what is it? He checked Percy's letter. Oh yeah, sever ties with me. I swear I won't get violent. Give it back, said Ron, holding out his hand. He is, Ron said jerkily, tearing Percy's letter in half. The world's. He tore it into quarters. Biggest. He tore it into eighths. Get. He threw the pieces into the fire. Come on, we've got to get this finished sometime before dawn, he said briskly to Harry, pulling Professor Sinistra's essay back toward him. Hermione was looking at Ron with an odd expression on her face. Oh, give them here, she said abruptly. What? Said Ron. Give them to me. I'll look through them and correct them, she said. Are you serious? Ah, Hermione, you're a lifesaver, said Ron. What you can say is, we promise we'll never leave our homework this late again, she said, holding out both hands for their essays, but she looked slightly amused all the same. Thanks a million, Hermione, said Harry weakly, passing over his essay and sinking back into his armchair, rubbing his eyes. It was now past midnight, and the common room was deserted, but for the three of them and Crookshanks, the only sound was that of Hermione's clothes scratching out sentences here and there on their essays, and the ruffle of pages as she checked various facts in the reference books strewn across the table. Harry was exhausted. He also felt an odd, sick, empty feeling in his stomach that had nothing to do with tiredness, and everything to do with the letter now curling blackly in the heart of the fire. He knew that half of the people inside Hogwarts thought him strange, even mad. He knew that the Daily Prophet had been making snide allusions to him for months, but there was something about seeing it written down like that in Percy's writing, about knowing that Percy was advising Ron to drop him and even tell tales on him to Umbridge, that made his situation real to him as nothing else had. He had known Percy for 4 years, had stayed in the house during the summers, shared a tent with him during the Quidditch World Cup, and had even been awarded full marks by him in the second task of the Triwizard Tournament last year. Yet now Percy thought him unbalanced and possibly violent. With a surge of sympathy for his godfather, Harry thought that Cyrus was probably the only person he knew who could really understand how he felt at the moment, because Cyrus was in the same situation. Nearly everyone in the wizarding world thought Cyrus was a dangerous murderer and a great Voldemort supporter, and he had to live with that knowledge for 14 years. Harry blinked. He had just seen something in the fire that could not have been there. It had flashed into sight and vanished immediately. No, it could not have been. He had imagined it because he had been thinking about Cyrus. Okay, write that down, Hermione said to Ron, pushing his essay and a sheet covered in her own writing back to Ron. And then copy out this conclusion that I've written for you. Hermione, you are honestly the most wonderful person I've ever met, said Ron weakly. And if I'm ever rude to you again, I'll know you're back to normal, said Hermione. Harry, yours is okay except for this bit at the end. I think you must have misheard Professor Sinistra. Your rope was covered in ice, not mice. Harry had slid off his chairs onto his knees and was now crouching on the singed and threadbare rug, gazing into the flames. Harry, said Ron uncertainly, what are you doing down there? Because I've just seen Cyrus's head in the fire, said Harry. Thank you, everyone. That's all for today. Bye. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to read page 301, actually. Bookmark, close. Peace out.